So I dug into my slab pile. These are 1 3/4 thick, and I'm cutting maple right now. And this little saw I'm using is a 10 amp saw. And although it does fine in the maple because it's a soft maple that I've got here, when I get to the walnut, I actually burned up the saw. And so you're going to see the lighting change, because by the time I got back with the new saw, it was much later in the afternoon. After all, I had to drive 45 minutes to the big box stores from where I live. So there we go, we burned up the saw, and we're back with a 15 amp saw. This one runs much better through the walnut. But right now I'm just getting them straight edge so I can take them in on the bandsaw and rip them down into planks so that I can build a laminated top for a Roubo style workbench. And then I changed my mind and didn't go with that style. So, but I'm still going to use all of this material in the construction of the Roubo bench that I am building. So I left this into the video. So just kind of seemed like something I needed to do. Leave it in, I mean, because it ended up being a whole lot of work. And now I've got material for other projects because I cut up more than I needed, thinking that I needed more to do the bench style I was first thinking of. Was a whole lot of planing. I cut 2 minutes of high-speed planing out and still ended up with a whole lot of planing. But that's okay. One of what I could possibly consider a downside to the fact that I have a sawmill is that nearly every piece of wood that I use for any project that is flat, i.e. doesn't go on the lathe, has to go through the planer. So I work the living daylights out of this little rigid planer. I kid you not. I need to buy a much bigger planer. That would be nice. And I could, plane wider boards. That's really what I want. Something about 20 inches. But the reason I decided not to use all of these to make the top was that I remembered that I have antique white oak. So here's the white oak. This is, like I said, it came out of a barn that was 150 years old. These were a beam up in the roof of the barn. Big, heavy-duty thing. Measured 9 inches by 12 inches, or maybe it was 11 and a half, but so I cut a couple of slabs 4 inches thick out of it, and then I took the other half of it and I cut a 5-inch slab, and that was a little rough to get through the end there. But took this 5-inch slab and then tipped it up and sliced it at 5 inches twice to get 2 5x5s, which will become the legs, making sure to get everything as square as I possibly could with this machine. And then I split that in half right there, and then come in and I had to plane all those. So for me, prepping stock, I work the hell out of this little rigid planer. When you have a sawmill, that's what you do. You plane a lot. I really want to get a bigger planer, but I'm going to have to come up with the money for that yet. All the big machines that I have, I had to save up for before I got them, so the planer will be no different. So I get the legs down, and well, I'll explain here in a minute. They didn't end up being 5x5. 2 of them did. The other 2 ended up being a little bit smaller. But I'll let me explain that here in just a moment. Well, a few little knots and whatnot, but overall, not too bad. There's some old checking in this one on two sides. But yeah, there's the bad, that side and that side are bad, but I'll put that to the inside of the bench and we'll just call it character. It's still white oak, it's still solid as a rock. Those splits probably won't get any worse since this is 150-year-old stuff. So this one and this one are 5x5, and I couldn't quite get 5x5 out of these two, so they're actually 5x4 and 7/8. I'll just have to take that into account when I start joining them to the top. It's not a big deal. We can deal with it. Alright, on to planing the top pieces. Well, that made me sweat. I think these weigh about 100 pounds a piece. Look at the medullary raise in the grain. That is nice. So I'm still going to have to figure out exactly how I want to do the edges, because they'll get squared to the face, and then I'm going to glue 1.5 inch walnut all the way around them. That's going to be my split top. That's one, and this is the other. They're just a little over 9 inches wide. By the time I square them up, they'll be 8. If I put, I don't know, 1.5 inches, 2 inches of walnut around there, I should be plenty big for a top. This is actually the bottom of this piece because of this. But, hold on. Or maybe that'll be the top because I don't like this. This is okay. That's a knot. That's a knot. Cracks can be filled in with epoxy and sawdust, so I'm not too worried about that. That I really don't like. It's not a very deep crack, but it's a crack. The other side looked better except for that spalted spot. Again, that's going to get cut off. So, and then the legs are ready. The tops are at least ready for me to start treating the sides. Yeah, this is going to be a project, guys. Alright, on to the next thing. So now I had the sides nice and flat, or the faces of them nice and flat. I had to square up the sides. And so I would run the skill saw down one side, one face, and cut one edge, and then had to plane it with the power planer to get it close, and then I would come back in with a well, it was a not a block plane. What is it? A I can't remember. Anyway, it's a little bit bigger plane, and then flipped it up and cut the other side and did the same thing again, and had to plane it down. Jack plane, there we go. Now I remember. The only two planes I have is a block plane and a jack plane, so hopefully once I have this bench made, I'm going to be making some wooden planes. At least that's part of the idea. So then we get started on the second one. This is a lot of work, y'all. But they did come out nice and square. I was very happy about that. I was actually kind of surprised that I was able to do it with the planers like this. I'm kind of spoiled by machines, I will admit. So I end up using a lot of hand tools in this particular project, and honing my skills. Some of them are not so great, as you'll see toward the end of this video. So this is to give you an idea of what it is I'm up to. I'm going to surround the white oak with walnut, and that'll make my split tops for the Roubo bench. That was a lot of work, y'all. Kind of liked it. But anyway, I think that'll be pretty slick. I'm going to do the tool holder in the middle that has the slots and that can be lifted up and moved over so that it stays up higher, and so you can bump materials against it when you're working on them. But yeah, it's actually going faster than I thought it would, to be honest. I thought it would take me a lot longer to get those things squared up. I still haven't cut the ends, of course. They're still got chainsaw marks or saw marks, depending on which end it is that we're looking at. That was obviously circular saw, but this was chainsaw. So anyway, onward and forward. So then I had to cut the ends of the boards, and yeah, I decided I'd try the old-fashioned way here. Made me a little guide, you know, keep it at 90 degrees, and started cutting. And the top was great, but the rest of it sloped and didn't work. So we tried again, not being one to give up easily, but this time I cut a knife shelf, or whatever they want to call it, all the way around, so I was able to get the sides and the top square, but then it dipped in the middle. So that was no good. So then I reverted to what I do and cut it with a skill saw as deep as I could, and then actually cut the rest of it. There I'm putting into my knife curves, or knife shelves, and then cut the rest of it with the handsaw, and that actually worked. A little bit of planing kind of to touch it up, and it was good to go. So there's all the parts ready to go. I also glued up side rails and the rails for the legs, and the end caps for the tops, and eventually we'll get the whole thing assembled. The next video is all about joinery. We'll see you then.